With all that we know about Donald Trump's attempts to overturn the election, there are still stories to be told about his behavior that had the ability to shock, to make you pick your jaw off the floor. Katie Benner of the New York Times has this unbelievable scoop tonight, published just 20 minutes ago. The Justice Department's top leaders listened in stunned silence this month. One of their peers, they were told, had devised a plan with President Donald J. Trump to oust Jeffrey A. Rosen as the acting attorney general and wield the department's power to force Georgia state lawmakers to overturn its presidential election results. The unassuming lawyer who worked on the plan, Jeffrey Clark, had been devising ways to cast doubts on the election results and to bolster Mr. Trump's continuing legal battles and the pressure on Georgia politicians. Because Mr. Rosen had refused the president's entreaties to carry out those plans, Mr. Trump was about to decide whether to fire Mr. Rosen and replace him with Mr. Clark. The reporter who got that amazing scoop, New York Times Justice Department reporter Katie Benner, joins me now. First of all, incredible reporting here. I had to read the story 3 times to make sure I was understanding it. But walk us through the story. What did you find?
Sure. I mean, it's very much like what you said in your introduction. It precipitated this crisis within the Justice Department when you saw one of the top leaders of the department basically working with President Trump to see if there was something that could be done at the department in order to overturn the results of the election. Now, this person, Jeffrey Clark, had been rebuffed many times by the acting Attorney General, Jeff Rosen, and his deputy, Rich Donahue. They said, please, this cannot continue. On New Year's Eve, they had a pretty stern conversation with him on New Year's Eve, which they really tried to understand why he refused to hew to the department's line that nobody had seen fraud. It had been investigated. It was something that Bill Barr had said privately to the president and publicly to the president. And yet Jeffrey Clark, having told them he reads a lot of things on the internet, said that he just politely disagreed with them, and he continued.
So you've got Rosen as the acting AG after Barr leaves. Clark is the head of the Civil Rights Division, which is in department leadership.
Oh, no, head of the Civil
It's definitely
Division.
Up there, right? I'm sorry, the Civil Division, my bad. Right, the Civil Division.
Yes, which is important. It defends the administration in court.
Yeah, that's a big part of the Department of Justice. It's a very, that is up near the top of the leadership. And he apparently was introduced to Trump by a Pennsylvania politician, and they start interacting for Clark to be Trump's guy in the Department of Justice to oust Rosen so that they could ride into Georgia with the DOJ to write some letter on DOJ letterhead to say, you, Georgia, must overturn your results.
Yes, well, first, Mr. Clark asked Mr. Rosen to do it as the acting attorney general. And when that didn't work, he had a conversation with Mr. Trump in which he came away from that conversation thinking that Trump would replace Rosen with himself. And then he offered Mr. Rosen the opportunity to remain at the department as his deputy.
he hatches a Department of Justice coup with the president and offers him, the boss is going to make me the head of the Department of Justice. So we can, this is my words, not yours. So I'm just characterizing. The boss is going to make me the head of the Department of Justice and the acting AG so we can pull off his coup. You can stick around as my deputy. But this is what's going to happen. And then there's a meeting in the White House with Clark and Rosen and the president.
Yes, and this is sort of unusual timing because it happened on January 3rd, which is the exact same day that Georgia Secretary of State released, leaked the audio of his phone call the prior day with Mr. Trump. So you have the entire world listening to the audio of Trump and the Secretary of State in Georgia having this bizarre conversation, which Trump makes so clear that he wants Georgia to change its mind, to find votes that would make him the winner. And then at the same time, you have a split screen with this meeting taking place around 6 p.m. on Sunday evening, where the president has set up an interesting situation where he has both Mr. Clark and Mr. Rosen there before him to present their competing visions for what the department should be doing. It was described to me by 2 different officials, former administration officials, as almost a bizarre version of The Apprentice in which they were selling the better plan.
So it sounds to me from reading your article that enough people at DOJ get read into this plan that they essentially rebel en masse and threaten to all quit if it's pulled off. Is that right?
Yes. So Sunday, we'll just go through the chronology. Midday Sunday, Jeff Clark says to the Attorney General, to Acting Attorney General Rosen, I believe that the president is going to remove you and put me in your spot. And then a few hours later, Mr. Rosen's deputy, the Deputy Attorney General, calls an emergency conference call with the remaining top leaders of the department. He reads them into what's going on. He explains what Mr. Clark has been up to. And they discuss what they're going to do if in the coming hours, the president fires Jeffrey Rosen and replaces him with Mr. Clark. They decide that the only option is to leave. And so that was really powerful information, because in this meeting with the president that happened a couple of hours later, other officials, including the head of OLC, Steve Engel, who was there, they were able to tell the president, listen, if you do this plan, it's going to blow up this way. It will cause this kind of chaos at the Justice Department. And if nothing else, nobody is going to pay attention to the Jeff Clark letter to Georgia. They will be paying attention to the fact that you have created a Saturday Night Massacre. And that was one of the compelling arguments to Mr. Trump.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.